Alright, hello, this is John Robin, and today I am making a video about a program that I started using that helps me organize what I do. It's called Asana. You may have heard of it before, and I know that a lot of people have tried to use it and have a difficult time. I found that Asana was just something that made sense to me, and I picked it up and used it naturally. I think we all have some programs like that really work. So because I'm still learning a lot about it. I'm always innovating my process and the things that I do with Asana, but it's definitely helped me organize, and I find every time I come back to it, it helps me keep my week on track. There's a lot to know about Asana. There's a lot of great tutorials. Whenever you want to look up how to do something, you just have to Google it, and you can find whatever task you need to do. I tend to learn all these things that way. Just whenever I'm wondering, oh, how can I make something repeat 5 times a week? If I'm not sure, I just type that in. How do I make something repeat 5 times a week in Google? And there's an Asana tutorial somewhere that Asana puts out. I mean, they're really great for helping people figure out how to use it. I'm going to try to just give you a little walkthrough of how my board is set up, some of the things that I have and how to do them. And maybe if there's questions, you could leave them in the comments and I might do a follow-up video. But if not, this should just give you a little feel for some of the things that I do in it that you could do. So first, what I want to do is I want to show you when I start my day. I'm using Google Chrome. So in the taskbar or the bookmark bar, I have things organized into folders. So everything that has to do with platform is all on here. And I just have to go and log in. And I have a folder within this called productivity, and that's where all my apps are. So every day when I start work, the very first thing I open is not my email inbox. It's my Asana, and I click that and this comes up. Um, First thing I do is I click here on My Tasks because displays everything. You'll see here there's projects and different teams that you can be on. Um, it's great because you can break things down into specific projects. But at the end of the day, I guess I could say the beginning of the day, I want to know what it is I got to do. And so when I click on My Tasks, I can take this view here. So there's different ways you can look at it. For me, I'm interested in tasks by due date. My computer's being a bit slow. But anyway, okay. So now you see here, this is all in order. Now, sometimes with Asana, if you have lots of tasks and you don't have everything assigned by time, you have to scroll a little bit just to make sure everything loads. But so let's just take a look at this, for example. Pay bills. Now that sounds a bit silly, but I've learned with Asana there are certain things that if I find that I'm likely to push them off or forget about them because I'm really busy, then I'll put it on here because I'm busy. I have 3 different teams that I run. I'm writing a book. I'm in the process of expanding my editing company. Just got lots and lots of things on my plate, and in the midst of that, I live a normal life. I have to pay bills. I have to make errands and all these things. So the nice thing about this is I see it all laid out right here on the screen. Let's just look at this, pay bills, for example. So when you click on an item, what happens is a little thing with all the details shows up here. And one thing that's very important for Asana, whenever you create a task, always assign a due date. There's the exception where you might be about to start a project and you just want to break it into steps and you don't know the dates yet and you're going to find them out. Well, that's fine. It's nice to have the individual items there. But for me, something like, this is a repeatable task. I'm going to talk about that in a sec. But whenever you have something that you want to get done, you should have a general idea when you're going to get it done. Now, the beautiful thing is, let's just say, this is kind of funny because if you look here, you'll see these 2 things are yesterday. So another important thing, just because there's a date on it, doesn't mean it has to get done that day. What it does is just reminds me as, oh, right, I'm kind of behind in these things. And occasionally, I mean, I realize I've fallen behind, so I'll just go in here and I spend a little bit of time reorganizing and moving things around and saying, you know what, originally a week ago, I thought this would get done by this date, but now that I'm here, realistically, that's not happening. So then I'll click on something, I'll go in here, click on the calendar and, find a day. Once I click the button, it moves to that day. So the task is still there waiting to be done, but it's no longer sitting here making me feel like, whoa, I'm behind. I better like pull an all-nighter and catch up, which of course is not the point of doing this. It's just to kind of, hey, this is what I got on my plate. How can I juggle this? How can I creatively move it around and make sure that the important things get done? So getting back to this here's paying bills, you see you can assign it to someone. So I have lots of people on my list. It sort of lists different people from different teams, but I mean, most of this is me. It's all my stuff. If I wanted to look at individual team members, I would go here and I could just view their tasks. But I mean, for me, it's what I need to get done that I'm focused on. I want to talk about something about scheduling that is so helpful. It was like, discovering fire for the first time for me when I found it. So look at this here. You can set a date for something, but this thing here allows you to make something repeat. So this pay bills, at the beginning of every month, I get a bunch of bills. They all come in and I have to pay them. And the reason I put this here is because a lot of times I'm so busy that the bills, they get carried around in my pack sack and I don't pay them until like right before, and oh no, I got to get these done, and so the thing about this item here is at the beginning of every month I get a little reminder. It shows up as, and I don't have to, I don't have to worry about forgetting it because I'm too busy. So look here, when you click repeatable, that little link I clicked, you can repeat monthly, you could repeat weekly, daily. You could have no repeat. I mean, by default, there is no repeat. So this is just to put it back there. You could repeat yearly. Now, the neat thing is, like, let's say, I don't want to mess this up here, but let's just say I wanted to go weekly and every Friday. I click that and I click OK. And now it's going to repeat every Friday. So let's say I'm behind and I don't get it done till Sunday, right? As soon as I click it, the item is gone, but then it duplicates itself and it will appear the following Friday. That's a nice feature. Now notice that if something was bi-weekly, I could go every 1 week, every 2 weeks. It doesn't even have to be within the month. Like let's say there was something every 7 weeks, and I don't know what kind of stuff does that, but let's say something every 7 weeks. I could click that, and on whatever day of the week I want, it would appear there. So you're not limited to that. That's a little thing I didn't think of at first, but it helped me a lot. Periodically is helpful because sometimes it's not so much a date, but you need to, okay, like give you an example. I go running every 2 to 3 days, depending on fatigue recovery cycle. So what I do is, say if I go for a run, I went for a run today. The item appeared on here. And what happens with that, that's set on periodic to repeat every 2 days. So I went on for my run and I clicked done. So these check marks here is how you click done. And so now if I scroll down, so today is Saturday. So if we look at Monday, notice, oh boy, I got a lot of work ahead this week. Run, there, see it reappeared. I didn't have to do that. Now, let's say Monday comes and I'm fatigued. I use orthostatic heart rate to tell if I'm ready to go for exercise in a day. And if I'm not, I just wait a day. So all I would have to do is click that item, and once I click it, the thing here appears, and I can just move the date ahead to the following day. Because it's set to repeat periodically, that means that it doesn't matter when I finish the item. As soon as the day that I finish it, it will repeat itself 2 days later. I mean, it could be through whatever day I want to set it for, right? So this is by default 7, but you can tweak it to however you want. So let's get this back. Hope I didn't mess this up. See, so my bills is just, it's monthly, every 1 month. See, just like the weekly, you could set however many you want. So I set it to 1 month, and you can say the day of the month. I got the third day of the month because usually by then I wait because it has to do with how my income happens. Like all my money, I get money from different sources, and it all sort of by the beginning of the month it's all there, and so that's sort of when I can pay bills. Often that's why bills get put off because I'm still waiting on some money to come in, and I find I get busy and I forget all about it. So that's why this is nice to have here. So let's just click OK, and it should be all back. Now it says yesterday. I have here side leg workout. I'm actually just taking a break here, so I'm filling some time because I really wanted to get this. I should have put this on Asana, but I didn't. I don't. Another temptation, important thing. Don't put everything on here. I mean, I already did that. In fact, earlier this week, I was just ready to lose my mind, overwhelmed with so many things on my plate. And I looked at Asana, and it's like I got these. I had repeats set to go on and find 3 more blogs and comment on them. And it's like I found every week I was pushing them off to the next week. So I went and I looked and I said, you know what? If this is not vital, it's like sink or swim, or it's not really important to me, or if it's something that is important, but I'm not going to forget it, or it'll come back to me at another time, then it doesn't go on here. And I definitely recommend you sort of weigh that depending on how you do your own tasks. So I'm gonna sort of just give you a little tour of how things work. I mean, I talked about dates and the different cycles you can set it to, assigning it. You want to make sure, even if it's just you, assign it to yourself, put a date on it, and you can always come and creatively move these around. Now, there's 2 things for yesterday, so what that means is, hey, they were supposed to get done, so that's why I'm doing the side leg workout right now, because I want to clear that so I can focus on what's left here today. But I'm always coming back to this and sort of adjusting it, because what's here is a best guess. So all along, this is how I look at my week and my particular day, and I often look a couple days, keep a couple days in my focus. Now, let's talk about projects. Huge part of this. So when you create an Asana board, you create it as an organization. So mine is Epic Fantasy Writer because that's the web domain that I have all my email addresses registered under. And you're allowed to have multiple teams. So I have here Team John Robin. That's just my pet name for anybody who helps me out with stuff relating to the work I do. I also run an editing business, so this is stuff that's specific to the editing business. I have my own personal tasks. You'll see here, projects are what allow you to organize tasks specific to a project. So I have something just for my story perfect editing work. But anything that's team related, so I can assign tasks to my different editors. I have various apprentices who I'm training as editors, and they have projects, and to train apprentice editors, I give them a chunk of material, say 20 pages to edit on their own, and then they give it back to me, and I go over it, and I critique, and I try to teach them editorial principles through the process of that. So we break it all into chunks, and it allows me to kind of see, like if, let's say I assign it to one of my editors, and they are a little bit behind, and like then what they told me they would be, then what that allows me to do is sort of see where they're at without them necessarily having to message me, because they can go in and they can change the date. And I tell them that. I say, when I set the task up, I set it for this date. It's the deadline I'd like. But if you're behind, just make sure you update it, because I go in and I check it regularly. I also run a blog that's, I would call it kind of like, well, in my vision, it was sort of like the epic fantasy variation of Writer Unboxed. I mean, nowhere near as as successful, but that was sort of the idea. A bunch of fantasy writers coming together to talk about different aspects of craft, and people would have their own monthly slots, and so that's slowly evolving, and this just helps us coordinate, scheduling and things we need to know. This is all new, so this is something that just started up because I was loving Asana and I recommended. We have a Slack team where we coordinate all our discussions, and I recommended we use this. Slack and Asana actually integrate well. I have to learn that still. That's a kind of future, I guess, future goal is to get into using that. You can use Slack to assign an Asana task, and I believe it works the other way around. You can integrate Asana and Slack so that Asana things send reminders. So Slack will actually, the Slack bot will give you reminders based on when Asana tasks are due. So something to look into. And again, that's a simple Google search. It's a lot of little, there's a lot of little commands and keyboard shortcuts to learn. And I mean, it's one of those things. Rainy day, it'd be nice to learn a bit. I try to learn a little something here and there, and that tends to be the best. So, but you have to pick your battles, and it's not about learning everything and getting it perfect, because that defeats the whole point of doing this. The whole point of doing this is to stay productive, not to stop the tape. We don't have Hermione's time turner, as much as I'd love to have that, but we have Asana. So we have teams, and like I did mention, projects. I'm going to just show you an example of a project here. So Blood Dawn manuscript. That I think I did a video on this already. Well, I know I did a video on this. Might make a little more sense now that I'm talking about Asana. So you'll see I have it broken up. Second draft roadmap, the writing of the second draft itself, and there is more. It's just loading. Second draft beta readers, who I got to get this to, writing the third draft. The further ahead I get, the more this is kind of like, stuff in the clouds that'll get more solid as I get closer. But, I wanted to lay all what the steps would be and just say, hey, if I went at this pace, what would the date be when I'd be done? And so it was just a curiosity. Realistically, now this year is probably like 2 years away. But at any rate, it's good to get it down and see what's what. As you will see, June 11th, a lot of June 11th, that's, was that next weekend? Yeah, that's not happening. I've got another project on the go right now, and so I'm taking a few weeks off this, but, there's no point in moving this forward every weekend when I don't actually know when I'm going to get back to this. So, when Saturday comes, like this morning, these were all actually, there was a lot of these things that I bumped ahead to this Saturday, and it's like, okay, I'm still needing a little longer on this other project, so I just push these to next weekend, and then next Saturday when I start up, I'll bump this all ahead to the next weekend, and then once I'm here, I'm working, then I'll restructure all this, but it makes no sense to do that all right now. So let's just see here. Things like, you can have fun with projects. Anything you think of as a project, like workflow for me, that's something that, like, there's tasks that help me become more productive with workflow. Like, for example, crush starred folder. That's a task that repeats daily. Little extra thing, though, you'd probably figure this out yourself. You can set a due time. Now, that helps me if I do Author Accelerator as an editor, and so that's like 10 pages of, I get 11 authors a week, and so I try to organize through the day, and I sometimes have to submit them in an order, so that helps me if I can put times there throughout the day. So there's that. Work organization, just thinking outside the box. It doesn't have to be a project that's on your plate, because I want to be more organized in how I work. That's one of my goals. So there's things you notice, like I want to do a major Dropbox folder cleanup. I was supposed to do that today, but once I sat down and looked at what I had on my plate, I said, yeah, that's not a priority. It's important, but it can probably wait till next weekend, and I'll tackle my projects that are more important right now. But so these sorts of things, and over time this will go. I have a transfer Trello Master To Do over. The reason is I used to use Trello. Many of you watching this may remember uh, my Trello board. Essentially, what I was doing there, I just converted that to Asana, which was a much more efficient environment to organize to-dos in, because it's just built in to be a reminder. And essentially, I was using Trello as a to-do list. It's not built for that. So I do want to still, there were still a lot of little things. Like I had some big picture goals that I had developed, and I want to transfer those over here into Asana. But again, that's not a, it's, it's important, but it's not urgent. It could get done when there's a little more time. So, this weekend, actually all of these lined up at the same time, and I bumped them all ahead to different weekends rather than just pushing in the next, because I knew it'd be nice, maybe just pick one little thing to do. And that's kind of what I like to do on Saturdays. It's not really nothing big and ambitious, just something that I normally don't get time to do, and a little time to breathe and think about the previous week. So now, a quick thing about the projects. I did have like a content calendar, and like and I think I had community outreach as a project, and that's sort of where those, like visit 3 blogs and comment on blogs and write your newsletter, and I had everything I have to do to get my newsletter done. I had that all organized and in detail, and it's just like a little pest, because every day I would finish up and there's all these things that I felt like I didn't get done. So I thought, why even have it on there if it's just going to be annoying? So unfortunately, I kind of had to learn that through doing it and realizing, hey, this doesn't work. But little lesson. I mean, I learned that you might want to consider that when you're playing around with Asana. I mean, I feel like I've just scratched the surface. There's so much more you can do with this program. If you have multiple organizations, you can get an additional organization and switch between it. There's a little thing here, right, that they have personal projects. I don't like that. I'd rather have everything all in one place, because then I go, my tasks are all here. But I mean, I don't know, if you were with different organizations and you wanted to switch between, you're able to do that. I think you got to upgrade. You can get a lot just doing it for free. So you don't really have to, unless you see the benefits of it. I think, like, because your boards could be private or public to the team itself. So if I make a board private, then that means that the board will not, like, only I can see it unless I invite someone to it to view. With the premium edition, you can actually invite a limited number of people, so you can have like limited privacy. And I could see where that would make sense if you had a much larger organization, or you wanted sort of to have a smaller group, say like an admin team, and then a larger team, that might work. So anyway, I think I've kind of blabbed on here longer than I intended, but really I just wanted to walk through Asana and how it works, show you what I'm doing with it. And if you have any specific questions, you could leave it in the comments, or you could get a hold of me by email. My contact information is, I'm sure if you're watching this video, you know who I am, John Robin, and you can go to my website. If you don't know who I am, you never know. I guess anyone could find this video down the road. So epicfantasywriter.com, and my email address is johnrobinrt@gmail.com. If you want to drop me a line and ask me any questions about Asana, feel free. I love to hear from people, especially writers who are wanting to become more efficient in how they work. Yeah, okay, thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something and that it'll help you become more productive. All right, bye-bye.